Hello everyone, I'm EFC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm bringing a season preview. Before I even discuss how our potential season's looking, I need to address how our potential first 11 is going to be for next year. Now of course we've signed Rudiger, Caballero, Morata and Bakayoko. It seems like 3 of the 4 players are going to be first team players, Bakayoko, Morata and Rudiger. With the Rudiger signing, I'm feeling that Conte wants to plug up that gap on the left hand side that teams keep exposing. Of course Matic isn't there anymore, and as Conte was saying before, he actually wanted Bakayoko to be mentored by Matic, which was a bit of a surprise to hear. But yeah, of course Matic going is giving Bakayoko more game time, and of course Morata is an improvement too, because his link up play is just more effective compared to Diego Costa. He's much better without playing with the ball, he's better at playing deeper, plus he's better at getting past his man. At the same time, he's not necessarily a better striker than Diego Costa. And what do I mean by that? Well, when it comes to his goal scoring, he's not as clinical yet, but he's come to Chelsea, but it's the right environment where he's going to have players like Hazard and Pedro playing really close beside him. He'll be able to do his quick 1-2 passes and make runs from behind, plus his aerial ability is just better than Mitchell's and Costa's already, as we saw in that short cameo in Arsenal, and you know, it's one of his best features of his game, so that's definitely going to be an improvement tactically to the team. Really at the back too, no, he's good at playing out from the back, he's adept with his passing, he can play out, and he's always playing with his head up, and he's comfortable with his technique to be able to put off the passes that he needs to. Of course, some question marks, you know, on things like his, not his temperament, but his tackling, time of the tackle, his positioning, but he's been getting a lot better at that. You have to remember, he was out for nearly a whole year with this terrible injury, recovered fantastically at Roma during the second half of the season, and he looks like a player on the up. Now, with the squad we have at the moment, I feel that the only other weakness we need to cover in the team really is that left wing back, because once we have that, then all of our frailties on the left hand side are completely evaporated, and I really feel that we've improved the team in a tactical aspect because we have players better suited to play in the 3-4-3 system at this moment in time, and I really feel that we are going to be one of the favourites for the league. I think it's between us, Manchester City and Manchester United, and I really feel whoever's going to win the league this year is really going to depend on who's going to get the most points against the smaller teams, because I don't see many of the big teams really taking points off from each other. We don't necessarily have to beat the likes of Manchester United or Manchester City to win the league, but if we secure our points against, you know, the Evertons, the Southamptons, the Burnleys, then we'll be 5 during the season. I think that's going to be the case for every team in the league this year. Now, I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on how I see us doing in the Premier League season, and I really feel that we're one of the favourites to win the league this year. Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City. We've got the best squads, the best first 11s, and I think it's going to be a battle between those 3 clubs. I think that we can cope in the league. Of course, we can't forget the fact that we won 30 games out of 38 last season, which is a phenomenal record. That's the record in the Premier League so far. That's not a very easy feat to do. And when you've got someone like Conte, who's very good at beating the smaller teams, you know, he's made a name from doing that. That's why he's so consistent, and that's why he wins so many league titles. We've got a very good chance. And the only position where we really need to strengthen for next season is at left wing back. And there's talks of Danny Rose, who's put himself in the market, saying that he happily pay for Manchester United or Chelsea. Danny Rose isn't getting paid the wages he feels he's worth, and of course he wants to start winning trophies now. And when you get to a certain age, players tend to become more selfish because they realise, actually, I don't have too long until my career is over. I need to make the most of it right now. I feel he'd be a perfect option for Chelsea. Obviously he's English, he's very adept going forward because originally this guy was a winger, and I feel that his defensive, some of his small defensive frailties are going to be strengthened now, having that wide centre back in a back 3 system, pushing out wide to help him, and I think really that makes a lot of sense. And then we're secure on the left hand side, and I think as a first 11, I think only us and Man City have the best first 11s in the country. How do I feel that some of our strikers are going to do? I feel that Morata will have a decent season. I'm not expecting him to light the world up, but I feel that he's really going to complement how we play, and I feel that this season, minimum, he'll get his 18 goals in all competitions, and I think that, you know, finally playing a full season's worth of football is going to be great for him, and we're going to see his potential in the future. How do I see Bakayoko doing? It's going to be very interesting to see what Conte actually does with him. Is he going to play him to the right, so he places the box-to-box player, and Kante play on the left beside him. Potentially, who knows, maybe that could be better for Bakayoko, because out of him and Kante, maybe you'd say Bakayoko has more attacking potential than Kante does, because he's 5 years younger than Kante. And then having Kante being the deeper one there, killing counter-attacking opportunities, which he was doing fantastically for Leicester, makes a lot of sense. But again, until I see what Conte does with Bakayoko, it's going to be really hard to assess how his season's going to be. And I think Rudiger will get game time as the season goes on. As we've seen already, Conte has been using him on the right-hand side of the defence, and Azpi's been playing as a wing-back. So maybe potentially that will be happening, because if anything, Azpi is a weakness for us in defence in terms of his aerial ability. That's the only thing, because aerially he's not that good, and sometimes his positioning in those deep areas can be a bit suspect, as maybe he's pushing out a bit too wide, leaving a bit too many gaps. And I feel that Rudiger would replace that with his aerial ability. Not that he's world class in the air, but much better than Azpi. And that's going to help us with another problem we faced last year, which is always conceding from set pieces or from headers from open play. And with Chelsea fans, I've never really seen us ever concede from headers. So it was really crazy last season to keep seeing us concede for them consistently, and that was the biggest weakness. I really feel that around January, February, we're going to start seeing who's a slight favourite for the league, but I really expect next season to be very, very competitive. But I have to say, at the moment, do I feel very, very comfortable with the squad we have at this minute in time that we can win the league? I'd have to say no. If we did get the players I'm expecting, like if Danny Rose did come, and let's say we got another midfield player as fourth choice option, I think then we're one of the favourites to win it. So currently, with the squad we have at the moment for the Premier League, I would say second. It's looking realistic. I feel that Jose Mourinho is going to be a bottleneck for Manchester United with his negative tactics. And I feel that Man City are the favourites at this moment in time, because they create the most chances, they create the most goal-scoring chances, and they've really strengthened all their weakness areas from last season. And of course, we cannot forget that we've got Eden Hazard, who's the best player in the league. No matter all the players that have been signed so far, none of them have come close to eclipsing Hazard's quality. Hazard is the best player in the league, and that's always going to be a massive advantage to what we do, because Hazard changes the games individually. If we're not even playing too well, or teams are really closing us down, Hazard is the trump card that can undo anything that opposition teams throw at us, and I feel that's going to be a massive advantage. So if we do get Danny Rose, I feel that we'll win the league again. Now, moving on to our cup competitions, I'll start with the Carling Cup. I expect that to be the trophy that we do definitely win for next season, purely because we don't have any youngsters as backup options anymore. It looks like all the backup options that Conte does want are all international players or experienced. So I expect us to field strong squads in the Carling Cup competitions. And I really feel that the Carling Cup will be the first cup that Conte wins as a manager for Chelsea, and one of his first cups in his career. I know he's won the Italian equivalent of the Community Shield. Doesn't really count, but I'm expecting the Carling Cup to be the cup where Conte finally does break that hoodoo. Now, moving on to the FA Cup. With the FA Cup, I'm not too sure. Let's say, for example, we're doing well in Europe. We're in the latter stages. Maybe Conte might decide maybe the FA Cup isn't as important compared to really focusing on our chances in Europe. But at the same time, maybe if some of the backup option players do well, that could be another competition for them to get game opportunities and show what they can do. And I feel that realistically, I think a quarter-final will be the realistic outcome. Of course, we're capable to win the FA Cup, but depending on how our season's going to go, and of course with European football in mind now, that might be a tournament of low priority. Depending, again, maybe if we get knocked out from Europe early, Conte will focus on that a lot. If we are in Europe, then I feel that Conte won't focus on the FA Cup as much. Now, I'm going to talk about how I think we're going to do in the Champions League. Yes, you guys are finally back in the Champions League. It feels so weird not being in there, actually. It's kind of crazy, but again, we're a top club. We deserve to be playing in Europe, and it's actually going to be quite interesting to see how we fare. Now, one of the most difficult things in predicting how our season's going to go is because we haven't seen all of our new signings gel into the first team yet and play consistently together. So if Conte does have any tactical plans he's looking, or any variations he wants to use in the system, that's something we won't see until probably sometime in September. But I do see us getting out of the group stage because we will be seeded in the first rank. And I feel that, honestly, is going to depend on who we're drawn to. Now, we know that Conte doesn't necessarily do too well in knockout round style of football. And I think that's because maybe his approach can be a bit too pragmatic and it's not very aggressive. And I think he kind of allows the team to take the back foot to soak up pressure. But one issue his teams always have when he does set the team up like that is that they find it very hard to play out when teams press them. I think that's been one of the weaknesses with our system. I wouldn't blame it on the formation. I blame it on our defensive pressing. You know, we're not a team that presses aggressively, and I really feel sometimes that can hinder us. You know, we like to take the back foot and soak up pressure. Now, we do know that Conte doesn't necessarily do too well with knockout round style of football, and I really feel that's due to the approaches that he gives to his teams. Now, Italy, of course, they beat Spain in the Euros, but then when they played against Germany, I felt their performance was really poor because they were really closed in easily, and they barely created any chances. Same things happened to him at Juventus. Of course, they get beaten very comfortably by Bayern Munich. And then they don't get out the group stage and Galatasaray take that spot away from them. And that shouldn't be happening because the season after, when Allegri takes over, the only signing he made was Morata and they go straight to the Champions League final. So if anything, it doesn't tell you that the players aren't good enough to challenge, but it tells you that maybe the manager's tactics aren't strong enough or best suited to that style of football. But when it comes to my prediction on how far we'll get into the Champions League, I really feel that I'm going to have to base it on previous seasons in Europe that Conte's been in. And realistically, I'm not really expecting too much to happen. I don't think it's going to be too crazy. I think round of 16 quarterfinals is the stage we're going to reach. Of course, I'm basing all my decisions on our current squad at the moment. We haven't finished making moves in the transfer market. Maybe it is possible that we do bring in Alex Sandro or Danny Rose. Maybe an amazing player might be available on the market before the window closes. Not too sure yet. But just judging on how the squad is at this current moment in time, that's my predictions I'm making. So you guys, a recap of how I think we're going to do this season. Number 1, the Premier League. With the current squad we have, I feel we'll get second place because tactically the team know how to play with each other. We're a very strong system to break down. I feel that Mourinho is going to be a bottleneck for Manchester United because I feel that goals will still be a problem for them for next season. I think the favourites will be Manchester City because they've covered all their weakness areas and they've really strengthened and improved. And of course, they're amazing on the attack. And I expect whoever wins this league this year is going to depend on who's winning the most points against the smaller teams. Because a lot of the big clubs are very strong and they're quite evenly matched. So there's not much discerning them. I think if we do get the upgrade on the left wing back position, I feel that we can win the league. I think in the FA Cup, we're going to get to the semi-final. I feel that we're going to win the Carling Cup because our backup options are so experienced. And I feel that in the Champions League, we'll get to the quarterfinal stage. Now, you guys, thank you for listening to my season preview for how I think the season's going to go. I probably might do an update once the transfer window closes because then I'll have a much clearer idea of how our season's going to look and what's really going to happen. But anyway, you guys, thank you for watching the video today. Please like, comment and subscribe. Of course, a lot of things have changed in the channel recently. I know a lot of people know about the history that's been happening. It's a shame, but I'm going to do my best. Actually, I'm not going to do my best. I am going to change everything around. I'm going to make it even better than it was before. You guys, thanks for all the support you've shown me. It means a lot. Obviously, good luck to Andy in the future. Thank you guys for watching my season preview. And I'll see you all for the next video tomorrow.